from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Here we go. Is it me or is it your internet?
We got a technical difficulty on day after. Here we go. I think we're back. We're back.
We're there. We're sound good. I can hear you. Gotta love live podcasts.
Gotta love live podcasts, right? Gotta love them. Gotta love them. Gotta love them. All right, we're back. I can tell all of my, I moved my mic a slightly thing and it pulled one of the wires, which lets me know this week I've got to clean up my desk.
There you go. There's a good project for you.
Mr. McQuiggan, how are you doing this lovely Monday morning?
I'm doing well, Mr. Azar. Always a pleasure to see you and, be here on the Practitioner Brief.
Well, it's great to have you here, folks. I hope everyone had a good Christmas. If you celebrated Christmas, if that was your thing. If you didn't celebrate and you had a holiday, please don't get hurt. It was Christmas, so Merry Christmas to everyone who celebrated. I hope you enjoyed your Christmas holiday. For those who didn't, who did something else, good for you. I hope you enjoyed it, had a good time, and everyone is healthy and safe, and you got the gifts you were hoping to get, right? Because that's really what Christmas is all about. Right, it's the gifts.
It's the getting or the giving of gifts. It's
that just depends on the personality of the person doing the gifting.
Yeah,
right?
I suppose so. Yeah, I like to give gifts. I always love to see the expressions on people's faces when they open up the gift that I found for them, and it's always a lot of fun. So.
All right, we've got we've got so packed show, by the way, today, folks. We're gonna be talking about the year. I'm gonna try and have a guest on every single day this week. So we're I'm kicking it off with one of my besties, with Mr. McQuiggan, but we're working on getting guests for tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday as we wrap up this year and move into 2022. A lot of stuff went on in 2021. But before we do that, Mr. McQuiggan, let's say good morning to Anthony, Matt Lee.
Good morning. Matt's here. Cool.
And Matt is finally back from COVID.
All right.
Got to be healthy and back in the saddle. Magnificent. Good morning to Paul. Good morning to David. Thank you for the happy Hanukkah, Matt. Hanukkah was around Thanksgiving this year. So we are a month out, but thank you very much. Good morning. Merry Christmas to Mr. Hurley. Vanja, happy Monday morning, all happy holidays. And Battle of the James by Mr. Paul Cumming. Paul is with us this morning. Paul, good morning to you. Joel, morning to you. Eddie, morning from Dallas, Texas. We've also got an additional LinkedIn user here. I believe that is, we're about to find out. My computer's faster than my iPad. John Del Cruz, good morning, buddy. So we are all here, full cast about. Listen, take this week. If you're done with Log4j, because we're not talking about Log4j today, I promise you that. We're done. We're not done. We're just not talking about it today, okay? We've made a conscious decision to not talk about it today. But before we do that, what are you drinking? Are you drinking your Tim Hortons, Mr. McQuiggan?
You got it. I got my Jimmy's.
I've got my Cubs mug with my double espresso.
There you
go. I was in South Carolina over the weekend, and funniest thing is I saw this coffee shop over in Foley Beach in Charleston, South Carolina. And they had Turkish coffee with the name of Aladdin. And I felt like that was just so disrespectful to Aladdin, because Aladdin's not Turkish.
That's true.
But coffee cup, cheers, everyone. Let's get into the show. Paul Cumming, first Christmas since retirement, buddy. A lot of times you were overseas. And Matt Lee is enjoying Le Red Bull. It is a very good one. Death Wish Coffee, best thing there is, by Dr. Cunningham. Good morning to you as well, good sir. All right, Let's talk about this one story this morning. So 4-year-old Microsoft Azure 0 Day is exposing a web app source code on the internet. So the vulnerability is not only exposing passwords and access tokens, it also brings out blueprints for the internal infrastructure that helps find software vulnerabilities. The Azure App Service has a 4-year-old vulnerability that could reveal this. It's any app written in PHP, Python, Ruby, or Node, researchers say. That were deployed using a local Git. The bug was almost certainly been exploited in the wild as a 0 day, according to analysis from Wiz. The firm dubbed the vulnerability not legit and said it existed since September 2017. I want to be in the meeting where someone thought it's a good idea to name this vulnerability not legit.
It's too legit to quit. Oh wait, that's a Hammer song. Sorry,
that is an MC Hammer song. He also went bankrupt. So let's
yes,
hope that Wiz doesn't have the same luck that MC Hammer had, right? The issue arises because using local Gits, the Git folder is also uploaded on publicly accessible and unpatched systems. It's placed in the home /site/www root directory, which anyone could access. Here's another vulnerability, buddy. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, a 4-year-old vulnerability is never good. So hopefully, once they get the updates out for that, folks start getting updated. But I have no doubt we're going to start seeing more attacks relating to this that are going to be coming out with regards to this. So yeah, once Microsoft's got that patch, make sure you've got your systems up to date, because those exposed applications, that's going to be a smorgasbord for our pen testers' threat actor dream. Yeah, Matt's hit it on the head. It'll be a smorgasbord for them, and someone will have a Shodan filter set up, and they'll be able to pick them all off. So hopefully we get this taken care of quick.
Paul has the best dad joke for the morning. MC Hammer went bankrupt but didn't quit.
Went bankrupt but didn't quit. Right, exactly. Well, I was washing my car yesterday with my son, and he turned to me and goes, "Dad, why don't you use a sponge?" Told you. Dad jokes told here. So there you go.
So, folks, if you are using Azure, please make sure to get this patch done. If you are, take this Git offline. That's another thing to do, right? Is disable your Git, take it offline, put it in a GitHub or a GitLab, preferably, if you can. That'll probably be better for you than your local Git as well. So
make sure you're mitigating your risk. Go through and look at that risk exposure and make sure you're taking care of it.
Indeed. Let's talk about this one. Either my faith in people has been restored after reading this, or I don't know, man.
Or people don't like Google.
37% increase in 2021, reaching over 100 million searches daily. That means that 100 million people. There's not 100 million people that work in security, so let's just get that clear, right? So these are not security people. So this is great, Mr. McQuiggan. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree. The fact that we're getting more people wanting to take their privacy, their searches, a little more private now, depending whether those are, people with let's see, what's a nice way to say this? People with a proper mindset, aren't searching for things, that lead to other dangerous type events. But if people are wanting to kind of take some of their own privacy in their own hands and learned about DuckDuckGo, started utilizing it, so that way Google can't leverage, because when you start searching for things on Google, the ads start showing up on your Facebook or your Amazon profile, and then it kind of spoils Christmas, because then everybody knows what you're shopping for. But no, in all seriousness, it's good to see that number going up with DuckDuckGo. A lot more folks wanting to kind of keep their searches to themselves and not being shared with a third party, or then that information being sold off to other parties. So yeah, glad to see that. Hopefully the number keeps going up.
So you want to hear something really hilarious here? So
okay,
let me read this paragraph for you, and then I want everyone to just laugh. With that, 100 million searches, it only has 2.53% in the total market share. It's smaller than Yahoo and Bing's at 3.3 and 6.43. Google remains on top with 87% search traffic market share.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it goes to show 100 million searches with DuckDuckGo. What does that mean for Google? Billions, trillions, zillions, petazillions, whatever numbers above that.
Wow. But someone is still using Yahoo and Bing. Now I get
Bing doesn't surprise me because it's the default for Edge, but Yahoo, wow, that's surprising.
Yeah, but the only people who use Bing are Microsoft employees or people that are required to use Bing because they work at Microsoft.
Yeah,
right.
And there's a lot of people that work at Microsoft,
global employees, to where they can account for 6.5% of the global piece of this one.
But Yahoo, wow.
Yeah, I can't believe. Like, I didn't know Yahoo was still in business. When was the last time you went to yahoo.com?
Actually, I do know a family member that has AT&T email that you have to go to Yahoo to do that. So AT&T customers that have their AT&T email links through Yahoo. So there could be that. I don't know. That could be part of it. So
Dr. Cunningham nails it. You are the product, folks. And Anthony goes, "What's Bing?" Remember MSN? They renamed it Bing. Like all things Microsoft, if they don't change the name once a year to something or twice a year, it just does it. Today it's Bing. I don't know what it'll be in 2022. It could be Wing. It could be Schling. I don't know what you'll find there. Matt Lee goes out there to find MySpace accounts. All right. Time to debunk something here. All right. There's a story going on Security Week, which I felt like was like, well, I don't know about this. A simulated phishing test allegedly makes organizations less secure. It was conducted in a 56,000 employee organization. The simulated phishing tests commonly seen in corporate user education campaigns are actually making things much worse. This is where researchers at ETH Zurich found that embedded training during simulated phishing exercises does not make employees more resilient to email malware wars, and worse, can have unexpected side effects that make employees even more susceptible to phishing. There's been a debate over this, but nonetheless, how do you train the human mind? So let's give you the raw data from it, though, just for the sake of full transparency before I hand it over to Mr. McQuiggan, who's vowed that he will debunk this. Overall, the study participants clicked on 6,680 out of 117,864 simulated phishing. That's about a 5.5% during the 15-month period. 4,729 out of 14,733 participants clicked on at least one phish. That's about 32%. The trend for dangerous action is similar, with the number slightly lower. Participants fell for 4,885 simulated phishing tests. That's about 4% of the total sent emails, and 73% of all clicked simulated phishes. And 3,747 out of 14,733 participants users did at least one dangerous action. There were 4,260 study participants that reported at least one email. In total, the participants reported 14,401 emails, of which 11,000 were simulated emails. The button to report phishing was also deployed to 6,300 employees that were not part of the experiment but could report phishing. 1,543 of them reported at least one suspicious email, and they reported 4,075 emails respectively. Mr. McQuiggan, what are your thoughts on this?
So first of all, I love this quote, but figures don't lie and liars figure. So, but that being said, we're talking about one organization here, and that almost makes it worse because, we all know in security, there's no silver bullet. There's no one thing that's going to fix everything. You have to have different, technologies and people and processes, and your technology is going to stop a lot of those emails that are coming in. And the ones that do get through, you want people to be aware, to be able to spot those phishing emails, the telltale signs, trust and verify, have a little skepticism with that. You're going to have people fall for phishing attacks. When it comes to security awareness training, it's got to be engaging. It's got to be interactive. If you're hitting them with little bits of training right after they click on it, they're going to be upset. I mean, I've I did a whole, I've got one of my presentations, I talk about the stages of phishing grief. When you click on that link, you go through shock, you go through anger, you go through denial, and eventually you get to acceptance, and people are going to, if they're having to do the training during that denial or that anger phase, yeah, they're going to hate doing the training. And it's like, oh, fine. All right, click, next, take the test. I'm done. Move on. Security awareness is kind of just the baseline. It's your foundation. You want to engage in a strong security culture within your organization. You've got people, behaviors. It's hard to change behaviors. It's hard to change habits. I mean, for crying out loud, the end of this week, it's New Year's Eve. And I wonder how many folks are going to be going, all right, I'm going to, exercise more, and I won't drink as much, and I'm going to eat a little more healthier. And by the end of January, you're sitting on the couch, eating pizza, drinking beer, watching football, right? So it's hard to change habits and security culture and this kind of environment. You can't just rely on that security awareness training to fix everything. It's all part of the puzzle that goes towards helping your organization be secure overall. With our phishing assessments and things that we've seen, sorry, shameless plug for KnowBe4. But we look at it and we get into an organization before they have any type of training. You're looking at, anywhere between 40 and 50% of people are going to fall for a phishing attack within your organization, maybe as low as 33%. But what you're looking for is to get that less than 5%, 4%, 3% of people that are going to be falling for phishing attacks, and a high number of percentage of folks that are reporting them. That helps drive that culture and is what's going to help protect the organization over. So, hitting us with all these numbers, that's great. You had people that fell for the phishing attacks. You had people report it. But you're still going to have people that are going to fall for it. And you still want to have things in place, other technologies that are going to at least help be able to protect the organization from a technology standpoint as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great comments flowing into this one.
Yeah,
I will say this. It's not just, you need user awareness, because Dr. Cunningham nailed it here. You are trained to drive a car, but you still have a seatbelt and an airbag to help you. Right.
Yep.
That's number one. And I think that's really important to note. Number two, there's the aspect of compensating controls, and the idea that you can just do awareness training and be good with it is flawed. And I think that's been the expectation by so many. If we can only get the users to not make mistakes, well, if I can only get my kid, to do X, right, that's not always going to work that way, right? Like, your kids are always going to do stuff that goes against the grain. Users are going to interact with technology, that you're going to catch them at a bad moment, because no one has a perfect moment, right? And so, I remember sitting in a CISO room a few years ago where someone was saying, like, what do you do with constant offenders? And they were talking about firing people who are constantly offenders of this kind of mistakes when it comes to phishing. And I was like, why would you do that? That goes, again, that's counterintuitive to everything we need to do in security, right? We need to start looking at how do we address this through group management within our security program, right? Take your high-risk users, put them into specific groups, put in more compensating controls, tighten their environment a little bit more.
Right.
But whatever you do, please don't fire someone because they failed a phishing test.
Right.
That's
at least
so
not on the first time. I mean, you want to have a policy. Your policies are going to dictate how people are managed and how they end up getting dismissed. If you have somebody that's surfing inappropriate websites, that can be grounds for termination. So, but that's in a policy. Same thing applies here. If you're doing phishing assessments and you have somebody that's constantly failing them, then there has to be conversations with them. All right, what is it you're missing? We've given you the training here. Those conversations, those discussions have to be had to make sure you can understand, okay, do they just not get it? Is it they don't understand, or they can't tell the difference? And you put in those controls to help out overall. But yeah, Karen hits it on the head. Oh, Karen hits it on the head. It works 100% of the time. I mean, we look at the attacks, the data breaches that come out, and we see social engineering is always up there at the top. And it does take one person to click on it. But if you've got other compensating measures in place, that's going to help protect the organization overall as well.
I think we need to do the difference between what is security awareness and what is security culture.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think that's really important. You and I, James, have talked about this so many times. And in fact, in the last year, I think you and I have done 3 or 4 podcasts talking about the difference between just, it's irresponsible for any security team to just do a bunch of phishing tests without pushing culture across from it.
Exactly.
Right? If you're thinking that you're checking the box by just doing a security awareness and having a 6% click rate that you can take to the board when you report to the board and go, look at our phishing test, we're only 6% click rate. That's, according to my provider for awareness, we're in the top 10% of all companies across the country or in the world that do this. That's not the way to do this. You've got to drive through security culture, and that comes by building relationship. That comes by sending out your security team to intertwine into the company's DNA. Culture. That's where it starts, right? And so many times we're so focused on technology and IT and DevOps, we're forgetting the number one thing we're doing: human behavior. Security is driven by human behavior.
Yep. I agree completely. Yeah. And, driving your security culture into your organization, working that, getting out into your business, meeting with the department heads, meeting with the different divisions, helping them increase that culture, whether it gets into performance reports, whether it's attached to bonuses, those kind of things. But it's not just phishing, it's getting that engagement from everybody and their buy-in and making sure that people understand the why. Cynic always talks about the what and the why. Make sure they understand the why and they accept that. Because if you think about, when you've got people walking into a physical building and they don't belong there, they don't have a badge and don't have a visitor's badge, are you going to stop them or are you going to let them walk around? Well, depending on how your culture is, you're going to stop them and go, hey, you looking for somebody? You kind of figure out where they're trying to be and, walk them back to security kind of a thing. That's that culture that has to be built up and get folks, get their involvement, get their buy-in, get that culture increased and help them understand what the why is.
Yeah, I think there's one key point I'll touch on this to kind of end the show here today. And I think this is just critically as important is the more we have to step away from thinking that matrix are the only way we define the security or the awareness of our people. What I would urge you to do is look at a different matrix. Record every time someone from your security team attended a cross-department meeting. DevOps, app development, product, UI, UX, APIs, vendor risk management, if it's not under your hat, right? And record all those man hours and make that a matrix and get the recommendations that were made and adopted from every single one of those. Now take that to the board.
Yep.
Right? Because that's the definition of security culture. That's the definition of being embedded in the DNA, is when you're in those meetings.
Yep. And that's a great first step getting forward. It's then getting the people that are in those meetings along with the security person, getting them to understand and get their buy-in and acceptance as well. And that's going to drive that overall.
I don't know that there's anything we can ever do to stop phishing.
Nope. Social engineering in the real world, in person, you go to New York City and you've got people trying to sell handbags and watches, you look at them and go, yeah, and that's a scam. That's fake. I know that's not real. Well, we need that same mindset with phishing emails, and they're still going to go on. It's still going to be out there. Bank robbers are going to still rob banks because that's where the money is. But we can help greatly reduce that. And that's kind of where we're at the beginning of all this right now. We've taken some baby steps with it, but we really want to get those numbers down, especially. And it's going to take I think it's going to take a generation. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I could see that definitely taking place. Folks, that's it for our show today. We'll be back again tomorrow. I hope everyone had a good holiday. Mr. McQuiggan, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, my pleasure always. But, as we look back at 2021, I think the highlight of my year was filling in for you when you had Baby Watch going on. And I had the honor, the pleasure of doing the show for a couple of days. So that was certainly one of my highlights of 2021.
That was my highlight of being able to take a few days off and knowing the show was in good hands. your highlight for taking over the show was my highlight of welcoming my son into the world.
Yes.
Which was one my moment of 2021. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Nothing topped that. So
Cool.
very grateful as well. Thank you everyone for tuning in this morning and being with us. And we did go long, but you guys hung with it, man. We went double time, but you know what? There's not a lot going on this week, to be honest, right? I think everyone's kind of like, hey, it's wind down week. A lot of people are on vacation. So thank you for taking time this week to be with us. We'll be back again tomorrow here at 9 a.m. Till then, have a great rest of your day, folks. Most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.